Understanding Warzone's Omni movement could be the key to you winning more engagements. In this video, I'm going to detail everything that you need to know about Warzone's movement, whether it is settings on controller or mouse and keyboard, and every single movement that I'm currently aware of in the game right now. All right, so starting off, we're going to start off in the controller settings. Now, this is super important that you understand this. A lot of these settings are going to be preference for controller and mouse and keyboard, but I'm going to tell you the ones that you got to make sure that you have no matter what. So we're going to start off on the movement tab under controller, and if you're on mouse and keyboard, just follow along. It's the exact same thing on M&K. So sprint assist is going to be the most important setting that we have so far. Now I'm going to actually detail something that you guys probably don't know. So if we have sprint assist on tactical sprint assist right here, and we go and we try to run and aim down sights to shoot, as you can see, there is a little delay, and my gun has to be pulled completely up for me to be able to shoot. Now if I were to go and have sprint assist on, I'm actually going to be able to shoot immediately, but I'm going to be having to click down my tactical sprint button for me to actually start going into a tactical sprint. So that is up to you. I personally like having tactical sprint assist on, and the reason is because you can actually cancel this out by doing any movement. So if you do a slide, it actually cancels out that animation. But if you find that you don't slide a lot, you might be better off having it on so that like you have that faster sprint to fire speed. So that's a setting that's completely up to you. But if you are going to be putting this setting on and instead of tactical sprint assist, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to movement advanced settings and make sure our tactical sprint activation is on single tap run. Now this is on single tap run. You're not going to have to double click it or double tap. It's literally just going to click one single time on your stick, or if you're on mouse and keyboard, this is the same thing. You're just going to have to click whatever your sprint button is one time and it will put you into a tactical sprint. Now for the next one, we're going to talk about slide and dive behavior hybrid. Now this is something I'd recommend, and a lot of professional players use this as well. And the reason that you'd want to use this is that you can actually toggle on and off if you want to use diving or if you want to use sliding. So all I have to do right now for me to slide is just continue to click the slide button. Then the moment that I want to dive, I'm going to have to press down whatever I use for the tactical sprint, and then I will end up diving. So that is something that you can do. You can kind of toggle them on and off, and it actually helps a ton. But a lot of the issue that most people end up running into is that if you've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, you'll end up starting to dive because you're used to pressing down the sprint button for that. So you're going to have to kind of play around with that for a while. It took me like a month or so to get used to, but I really do enjoy this now. Now, if you don't want to end up using that, what I'd recommend is keeping it on tap to slide, because slide only is going to not allow you to dive, and you definitely want to dive on this game, and you don't want to be on dive only because you definitely want to slide. So keep it on tap to slide, then click the show more button, and then click slide and dive activation delay and put that on short, meaning you're going to have to put a little bit less tension on the button for you to end up going into a dive. So it allows you to be a little bit more snappier. Awesome. So now that we got those settings figured out, the only two things that you really need to be aware of is making sure that you guys have sprint restore on and slide maintain sprint. If you do not have those on, make sure you put those on. They're automatic settings, so you must accidentally click them off, but that is going to make your movement insanely clunky. Now, one keyboard and mouse setting that you guys need to be aware of. Now, I did not figure this out. The first person I saw do this was T-Captain X, so shout out to him. Go to the movement advanced keybinds, and you're going to be putting on your slide to its own separate button. Now the cool thing is let me just switch on over to mouse and keyboard really quickly. The cool thing about this is that now if I were to use my normal slide button, I'd get these little dead slides, and as you can see, like I end up going straight into a crouch. Now if I have a dedicated slide button and you just continue to cancel it, you can indefinitely slide, and you literally cannot go into a crouch like you would before. So that's super cool. Controller, I'll show you a variation of how to do this. So we have one more controller setting. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to controller, and then we're going to go all the way to dead zones, and you're going to make sure that your minimum dead zone on your left stick max, or sorry, your maximum dead zone on your left stick max is at 75 or 65. Now I found that at 65 I would get like little to no dead zones. As you can see, I do get a few, but like it's actually so crazy how few and far between they are compared to if your maximum dead zone is on 100. So I would play around with that. I personally like mine on 75 the best. A lot of my coaching clients are rocking 65. So up to you. You still will get the dead zones, unfortunately, until they fix this little stutter step that you end up getting. But this is something that is super cool that you can do. All right, so now we're going to be going over every single movement and how you guys can move like an absolute Warzone demon. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is the slide. I'm going to be doing this on controller, but you can do everything on here on mouse and keyboard. So on this game, since we have Omni movement, we're able to move in every single direction. We're able to move backwards, sideways, or forward. So one of the things you guys need to be aware of is that in a Call of Duty before, we have never had to really worry about people sliding sideways and being able to challenge the gunfight immediately, because in a previous Call of Duty, you'd be able to slide and then turn to the direction that you have that you want to kill the opponent on. So now let's just say this is my opponent, this little lamppost right here. I'm able to just completely center him while going and challenging the engagement. So this is actually a pretty big deal, because now you can eliminate this turn animation, and you can literally just, the moment you get into a gunfight, actually just start sliding to the side to challenge the gunfight. So that's going to be tip number one, is making sure that you're sliding sideways and that you're not getting into the habit like we did on the previous game of going into a turn to then go and challenge the gunfight. And I realized that I actually did not change my tactical sprint assist, so we're going to make sure that that is on tactical sprint assist. So yeah, so now what I want you guys to be aware of is that in this game, you also are going to be able to slide backwards. So this is actually going to help you a lot compared to in the previous game. So let's just say, for example, there is a person across from me and I'm on top of one of the buildings and I'm going to be looking over at this guy. Well, I'm actually able to slide backwards and completely get out of the fight. Well, this helps a lot for evading situations. Again, there's a guy over here. I could slide backwards and get completely out of the fight. This will help you if you know that you're not going to win the gunfight. All you have to do is wait and slide backwards and then get completely out. Now, that is something that is super, super cool. And one thing I want you guys to be aware of is that whenever you are sliding down an object, you actually gain a significant amount more momentum. So one of the things that I've been doing is I've been sliding down stairs versus my opponents, and I've been winning a lot more engagements. So even down like small stairs like this or down a big stairs, what I'm doing is I'm literally going to be challenging the engagement while sliding down the stairs, and you're going so quickly that it's going to be really hard for them to end up killing you. Now, before we move on, getting better at Warzone has never been easier. I'm a Warzone coach with around $40,000 of competitive earnings, and I've made that over my 10 years of competitive Call of Duty experience. So I have a lot of repetitions in Call of Duty, and I recently have just started to coach people over the last 3 years or so. I kept it confined within my Twitch stream, but now I'm starting to bring it out to the masses. I have nearly 100 clients coached, and nearly all of them have had a dramatic, and I mean dramatic, improvement in their gameplay, bringing their KD from a 1 to a 2, a 2 to a 3, and even some of my clients have went from a 1 KD all the way to a 4. So if you're looking to transform your Warzone gameplay, click the link below to book a consultation with me and see what that looks like. Now, another thing that is really cool about sliding is that there is a ledge slide, so you're actually able to completely slide off of the ledge and you gain a burst of a momentum. So as you can see, I almost fell in the pool right there, but if I were to literally just slide off of this, I gain a burst of momentum, which allows me to be able to go and challenge the engagement right after it. So that'll help you a ton if you're going to be sliding off of ledges. I've noticed that whenever I'm high up, I lose a little bit of momentum. So it kind of depends on where you're at. Sliding off of objects that are like pretty close to you are probably going to help you a lot. So remember to continue to keep doing that. Now, another thing on the note of sliding that we're going to talk about is the jumping into a slide. Now, there's this beautiful mechanic in this game that I've seen a lot of people start to abuse, and that is whenever you jump and then you were to slide and aim down sights. And this is very easy. All you have to do is, again, jump, slide, and then mid-air, you're going to be aiming down sights as you're doing it. Now, you could do this actually downstairs. So if you're going to be wanting to jump and slide down these stairs, you can literally go slide straight down the stairs and challenge the engagement. And this is going to be very good because you're going to be able to catch your opponent off guard, and they're not really going to be used to you jumping into a slide. Now, you can actually do this off of a building as well. So if you were to jump and then land on the ground and then actually click the slide button, you will start to slide. So as long as you click the slide button, you will enter into a slide. Now, this could be really good for kind of like outplaying your opponents if you're trying to do some sort of fancy movement on them. So make sure you guys try that on out. I think that will actually really help a lot of you guys, especially whenever you're just like in a normal engagement. You know the guys are around the corner, you jump and then you slide while you're aiming down sights and challenging the engagement. Now let's go on into the diving portion. So diving is going to be very useful in gunfights, and what you're going to need to be aware of is that in the previous game you were not able to dive and shoot at the same time, so people are not really going to be used used to you diving and being able to shoot them while you're flying through the air. So one of the things that I noticed whenever I dove into engagements where they knew where I was losing gunfights. But whenever I dove and kind of caught somebody off guard, I was winning the engagements. So trying to make sure that whenever you're diving, you're not going to be diving in situations where they actually are aware of you being there. So maybe dive in a situation where you're going to catch them off guard, but if they're going to be pre-aiming you, you're pretty much bound to be losing that gunfight. Now, after diving, there is going to be the jump shot and the drop shot. So the drop shot is probably one of the worst mechanics I've actually found in the game, and I was really excited because you could do this slide into a prone and drop shot. Now, again, if you catch the person off guard, you're probably going to end up winning the engagement, but I have noticed that whenever I try to do it in a gunfight, there's such a big headshot multiplier, meaning they kill you very quickly with a headshot on this game. So you want to make sure you're probably not doing that, because again, what is the first thing that the person sees whenever you are laying down? That's actually your head. So drop shotting in the traditional Call of Duty sense, it might be good in certain engagements, but you want to kind of avoid it in a lot other engagements. Now, something I did notice was that whenever I'm laying down like this, so I slide backwards and then I end up laying down, I actually win a lot of engagements. And why is that? It's because the first thing that they see is like your chest or crotch region rather than your head. And it's also your gun is kind of sticking out. So instead of your head being the first thing that they're shooting at, they're kind of shooting at like your lower torso and your chest. So this is actually a really cool thing that I've been starting to do, is kind of like diving backwards and then challenging the engagement by laying down. Now, I haven't tested this out too much, but that might be something that you want to play around with a little bit more, is whenever you're getting engagements and you know that the guy is there and he kind of knows that you're there, just kind of sliding down and then challenging the gunfight, waiting for him to come around the corner. And I think that you might win certain engagements. You just got to be wary because they can camera you. If you're in a close quarter engagement, they can slide past you, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Now, one of the things I want you to be aware of is the jump shot in this game. The jump shot is actually pretty crazy because, as you can see, your gun bounces a lot. So you have to be very careful with where you're jump shotting. It can be very helpful because you could be the one that is harder to be hit, but you can also make it harder for yourself to be hit. So just kind of be wary as you're jump shotting. And then we're going to talk about the slide cancel. So there's this slide cancel, you really don't have to do too much in this game, but you actually are able to time your slide. So if I were just to slide, it'll kind of cancel for myself since I have slide maintain sprint on. But as you can see, I'm sliding completely out there, and I actually just clicked the prone button, but I'm sliding completely out. But if I want to cancel it, I can actually time where I want to end my slide. So that actually could be really useful for winning specific gunfights. If you guys enjoyed this video, there's a lot more to come. I'm going to be posting a ton of content for you guys on how to get better at the game. So would you consider subscribing for more content? And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in.